I've been wanting to film this video for a while now, but I haven't had the time to really sit down and kind of have a heart-to-heart with you guys. I think that it's really important that we talk about mental health and going through infertility and going through IVF, because mental health is such a huge part of going through IVF, going through infertility. So today I just want to sit down and really speak from my heart with you guys about what I went through mentally going through IVF and my mental challenges I went through after I found out I was pregnant after my frozen embryo transfer. I've mentioned this before to you guys quite a few times, but going through IVF physically really wasn't that bad. It was okay, my body recovered really quickly, but the mental battles I fought going through IVF, that's a different story. So I do want to talk about those mental challenges, those mental battles I fought during IVF and then post FET. And then I want to talk about how I mentally coped with it all and the interventions I did for myself that helped me keep sane. Yeah, so I hope this video helps you guys out and helps maintain your mental health. And by the way, if you're brand new to my channel, welcome. I upload 1 to 2 videos a week all about living healthy. And you know, recently it's been about IVF and infertility and fertility stuff. But I do a lot of grocery hauls and stuff like that. So mixing it up with IVF videos, healthy living videos. So if you are brand new, welcome. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for watching this video and I really hope it helps you. First, just a tiny bit of background on me in case those of you who are brand new here. I've been struggling with infertility ever since I hit my teens. And basically, long story short, my infertility stemmed from being on the birth control pill. I got put on the birth control pill way too early at the age of 16, before I was even fully developed. Before I even had my period, I got put on the birth control pill. And it didn't really matter at first. I got married when I was 21. I didn't want kids yet. And about 26, 27, I was like, let's try. So I got off the pill. And ever since then, I have been struggling with infertility. I am now 36 years old. So for over the past 10 years, I've been struggling with infertility. And finally, last year, I was like, you know what? I can't wait any longer. I gotta go through IVF. So I started my IVF journey almost exactly 1 year ago. So I did my first injection last October 31st to be exact, on Halloween night. I did my first stim shot and I documented my whole entire IVF journey for YouTube. So I do have a playlist I can link down below for you guys if you guys haven't seen it yet and want to check it out. I did vlog both egg retrieval processes and then of course my frozen embryo transfer process. So I will link all that down below in case you're interested. Going through the past over 10 years of infertility has been quite mentally challenging. So I knew that going through IVF was going to have its mental challenges too, but I was not prepared for how bad it really was. And I know I'm also the type of person that gets anxious pretty easily. I am a type A personality and anxiety is just one of the things I have to deal with. So my mental health though normally is pretty even keeled. I just do get anxious pretty easily. So I already knew that about myself. What did help me though, just that comes naturally to me, is I'm a pretty positive person. So I can look at something with a glass half full, and so I'm very thankful that I'm able to do that pretty easily. But anxiety is the word that comes to mind that sums up my mental health during IVF. From the moment I started my first stim injection, I was pretty anxious, but I was able to cope pretty well because I was like, okay, let's just do this one thing at a time, one step at a time, one day at a time. And so I kind of communicated that when I vlogged my way through both egg retrieval processes, like, okay, one thing at a time, like this is gonna be okay. So my anxiety did not really get bad until my frozen embryo transfer, which I'll get to in a minute. Some of you have reached out to me and said the same thing, like, I've been so anxious during IVF, like, how have you coped with it? Have you been anxious? And the answer is yes, I've been very anxious. I have heard of many women going through some depression, some even like panic attacks, mental breakdowns. I didn't experience any of that, but anxiety was truly through the roof during IVF. And like I said, it really wasn't until I got to the frozen embryo transfer that I really dealt with a lot of anxiety, but I did deal with it throughout my IVF journey. I think there's a few reasons why we get so anxious during IVF. And for me, the number one reason was I spent so much money. The money, I mean, a lot of you have told me your insurance covers that and you are incredibly lucky. My insurance, my husband's insurance, and I'm doubly insured under my insurance and Josh's insurance, and our insurances do not cover anything. Anything under the fertility umbrella, insurances normally don't cover, at least here in the United States, unless you have like a very, very good insurance policy or you work for Amazon or Google or one of those big network companies, then maybe they pay for it for you. But the standard in at least the United States, the general insurance companies do not pay for IVF, and it is thousands and thousands of dollars that you pay out of pocket. Every fertility clinic is different too. My fertility clinic wanted cash up front. I did pay for 2 cycles of IVF up front because that seemed to be cheaper than just paying for 1 cycle at a time. And I kind of knew that I would need both cycles, which I did. So overall, my total cost for IVF was $50,000, and I had to come up with most of the money up front before I even started the first injection. So that alone caused so much anxiety for me because I was constantly questioning, is it worth it? That's a lot of money. Like, what if it doesn't work? I'm out $50,000 for what? Like, just caused me quite a bit of like questioning myself and questioning if this was the right thing for me to do. Money aside, I was also questioning the morale and the ethics involved with this because I did grow up religious. I grew up evangelical Christian, and I grew up believing that like there's a God and he's formed you in his image, and if science is doing this, am I playing God? It just caused me a lot of, again, anxiety and am I doing the right thing? Maybe I'm not meant to have kids. Maybe God doesn't want me to have kids and that's why I haven't had any yet. Like, am I intervening too much in this? But then I would think to myself, well, science and technology is what got me into this situation. Like, being on the birth control pill is what got me in this situation. So it's like, well, I think I need to use science to get me out of the situation. So I was just a lot of, is this the right thing for me to do? I don't know. In addition to all of that, you guys know that I'm very health conscious, and I hated the fact that I was giving myself all these artificial hormones to like make things happen that aren't really supposed to happen naturally. And I think I was just like afraid for my health. Like, is this gonna cause cancer down the road? What am I doing to my body? Is my body gonna be freaking out later? I was worried about the water weight gain, all the other weight gain that I would be having. And I was worried about my workouts. And I just was like, what am I doing to myself? So these mental battles I was fighting constantly, going through stim week, egg retrieval, and then going through it again because I did do 2 cycles, like I said. I know a lot of people get nervous about the injections. I was not nervous about the injections, luckily, just because I'm a nurse. I'm used to shots, I'm used to needles, not used to giving them on myself, so I was a little bit nervous for them. But after the first couple, I was like, that didn't cause me any anxiety at all. So I'm lucky in that regard because I know a lot of you guys have reached out and said you're so anxious about the injections and the medications. So I am lucky in that, but everything else caused me quite a bit of anxiety. So that was what I was dealing with my stim medications and stim week and egg retrieval. And it really was not bad, the anxiety. It's just kind of mild to moderate, dealing with it every day. It wasn't until after my frozen embryo transfer that I dealt with a ton of anxiety. So I do want to touch on that now. So my frozen embryo transfer itself was a magical process. It didn't cause me any stress. I think it was so special for me to get that embryo transferred in me. It was so special seeing my embryo and meeting the embryologist and then having my own fertility doctor place the embryo in me. It just was a great experience. But after that is when mentally I started struggling. It started with that 10-day wait. So as a lot of you know, you get the embryo transfer and then you have to wait 10 days for your pregnancy results. You wait 10 days and then you get what's called an HCG lab draw. So it's a blood draw, and it basically, if your HCG level is high, then you're pregnant and the transfer worked. If it's too low, basically if it's below 25, the transfer didn't work and you're not pregnant. But you have to wait 10 days for that blood draw. They tell you not to do a home pregnancy test before that because the results could be falsely positive or falsely negative because of all of the hormones that you're giving yourself with the progesterone oil shots and the estrogen pills that I had to take at least, and the progesterone vaginal suppositories. So with all those hormones I was pumping in myself, the pregnancy test might not be accurate. So they tell you to wait 10 days, don't do a home pregnancy test, and come in for the blood draw. So my frozen embryo transfer was July 1st. I waited the 10 days. Then July 11th, I got the blood draw done. And as you guys know, the transfer worked. During those 10 days, I did feel myself get more and more anxious, like anticipating my results. But at the same time, I was preparing my mind and my heart for a negative test. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna prepare myself for when my clinic calls me, they say, your HCG level's low, I'm sorry it didn't work. And I'm just gonna mentally prepare for that answer. And I was already making plans for myself. Like, am I gonna do another transfer? Am I gonna take a break? These progesterone and oil injections are killing me. Maybe I don't want to do it at all. And what am I going to do with these embryos that I have? Because I did have 3 total. And then of course I would only have 2. So I was already making plans in my head for this negative result. And I was already moving on in my brain. Like, okay, it's going to be negative. It didn't work. So what am I going to do? By the end of the 10 days, I had made up my mind that this didn't work. It's negative. It's okay. That mindset might have not served me well, because when my clinic called me on July 11th after my blood draw and said, Brittany, you are pregnant, I was in shock. I was just like, I I couldn't believe it. And I couldn't believe it for the longest time. And I'm still in a little bit of a disbelief. Like I wake up in the morning now and I'm like, is this really still happening? Like I see a little bump, but I don't know, hopefully baby's fine. Like hopefully I'm not doing anything wrong. So there's lots of still disbelief going on in my mind, even at almost 17 weeks pregnant. Let me back up though. I have gotten a few questions about how I dealt with waiting those 10 days for my pregnancy results, like how I dealt with that mentally. And honestly, I kept myself really busy so that I wouldn't think about it so much. So during that time, it just so happened that one of the families in one of our units moved out and we were furnishing it and cleaning it for a travel nurse coming in. So we were very busy doing that. That took, I started cleaning baseboards and walls the day after my transfer. And you know what, that's the thing is like my fertility doctor told me, Brittany, there's nothing you can do to like make the embryo stick, like make the transfer work. It's either gonna work or it's not. So whether you exercise, you're going back to work, like it doesn't matter. She just recommends to keep myself busy because she was really worried about my mental health, and I can see that now. So for those of you worried about like what you should do physically after your embryo transfer, whatever you want, honestly. If you want to go back to working out, great. If you don't want to, great. If you want to go on walks. For me, the next day I was scrubbing baseboards and scrubbing walls and touch-up painting and moving furniture for our travel nurse coming in the next week. So, you know, my transfer worked. So I was very, very busy for those 10 days. I didn't actually work out though. I did want to give my body a rest, but I was very busy with still working full time, getting that unit ready, cleaning our Airbnb, taking care of Yuma because he still needed like 3 activities a day. He still does. Yeah, Josh and I lead a very busy life, as you guys know. And I am a nurse, as a lot of you know too. So my job is very heavily like physically demanding and on my feet. So I did not rest after my frozen embryo transfer. So definitely keeping myself busy was how I dealt with that 10-day waiting period. And then the real mental health challenges began after I found out I was pregnant. And in Josh's words, he's like, oops, it worked. Like, oh my gosh, the transfer worked. I just was blown away. I couldn't believe it. It was just something I never thought would happen. So after I found out I was pregnant, I was paranoid that I would be doing something wrong, that I would lose the pregnancy, all the doubts and the what ifs, and it flooded my mind with the doubts and just letting my mind wander and asking myself, well, what if I miscarry? What if I do a workout that causes a miscarriage? What if I eat something I'm not supposed to eat? What if I take a medication because I did get COVID a few weeks ago? Like, what if I'm taking too much Tylenol to cause the baby harm? I think because it's taken so long to get this pregnancy and going through so much mentally to get here, I was just so scared that I would lose the baby, I would lose the pregnancy. You know, going through over 10 years of infertility and then fighting my way through IVF, I just was so doubtful that this pregnancy was happening and I was just gonna do something wrong. And with every ultrasound, I was like, oh, is the baby still there? Like, I needed those ultrasounds to prove to myself that baby's there. And I needed my doctor to say, oh, everything's good, you're progressing well. And I held on to every single word he said, and I still do. I have my next ultrasound and doctor's appointment on Monday, October 10th, and I can't wait because my last ultrasound was when I was 10 weeks pregnant, and my uterus is what they call retroverted, so it's more like internal. Uteruses normally like kind of go out like that. Mine stands straight up, so it aligns with my spine. So that's why it's taken me so long to show, and even now I'm like barely showing. On my 10-week ultrasound, my OB doctor had to press so hard on my belly to even see the baby because my uterus is tucked so far in me. Anyways, I digress. But yeah, I was just holding on to every ultrasound. I needed every doctor's appointment to validate that I'm still pregnant, that everything's fine. Also, I was hiding this pregnancy from you guys, which did not help the situation. I really do need your guys' support and love. It was a huge relief and a huge weight off my shoulders once I announced my pregnancy to you guys, that you guys finally know, because now I can start kind of opening up, sharing what I've been through, especially mentally, and it's very therapeutic for me to share with you guys what I've been going through. I think that most women go through doubts and what ifs and anxiety when first getting pregnant because it's new and you want to make sure the pregnancy sticks. But I think it's like 1,000 times more if you've been through infertility, or if you've been through loss, or you've been through lots of miscarriages. I think it's 1,000 times more with the anxiety when first getting pregnant than somebody who's like never experienced miscarriages or a loss or infertility. So those of you experiencing a lot of anxiety and your mental health seems to be declining a little bit, you're depressed, you are not alone. I think it's very normal. I also think it's important to try to intervene and try certain things to get you out of that depressed mode and anxious state of being, because to live in that for a long period of time is definitely not good for you. It's not good for your baby if you're pregnant, or you're dealing with IVF and infertility. Definitely doesn't help infertility. So I think it's very important to try to intervene and try to get your mental health a little bit healthier. So I'm going to share some interventions that I did during IVF that really helped my mental state, and then what I did for my mental health after finding out I was pregnant. These interventions are not in any particular order, but what I have done throughout my IVF journey that really helped my mental health and my anxiety, number one, was communicating my feelings to Josh. I am a person that can't hide my feelings and thoughts very well anyways. Like, I'm kind of an open book, unfortunately. I don't have a poker face. So Josh can read me like a book. He knows when I'm anxious, he knows when I'm sad, or he knows at least when something's wrong because my body language gives it away. I think it's really important for you to communicate with your partner how you're feeling. If you don't communicate, most men are not that aware of how you're feeling. They are very black and white thinkers, which is totally fine. Some of you guys have reached out just being so frustrated at your partners, saying that he doesn't get it, like he has no idea how I'm feeling. And normally it's because you have to tell them, like specifically tell them how you're feeling. If you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling sad, they want to know, they want to help you, but they're not going to know unless you tell them, honestly. Even if you're crying, even if you look sad, like sometimes they still don't get it. So I highly recommend that you communicate with your partner, that you tell him how you're feeling, and maybe even like sometimes I have to tell Josh like how to help me, even though sometimes I don't even know how he can help me, but by him just listening to me is extremely therapeutic. You really don't think it is going to be therapeutic, but by just voicing to somebody else how you're feeling is so helpful and so therapeutic and so great for the mind. I'm lucky in the fact that I can just vent to you guys. I can vent on Instagram. You guys are so loving and supportive that you message me back such wonderful messages. But if you're not sharing your journey, it's so important to have that support system of your spouse or your partner or a friend, whoever it is, or your family members. That support needs to be there. If you're doing this alone, I don't recommend you do this alone. That's for sure. It's a very hard journey to journey alone. And that kind of brings me to my second intervention, and that is to make sure you have a support system in place. Make sure that your family is involved, that they're supportive of you, or if you don't want your family to know you're going through IVF, have like a friend know, somebody know that you're going through IVF that you can go to if you need some emotional support, some mental health support, because like I said, IVF is so hard to go through alone, and infertility in general is really hard to go through, but make sure you have some sort of support system. If you don't want anybody in your life to know, then make sure maybe you find a therapist or just somebody to talk to, because I just don't know how I would do it without you guys. I don't know how I would do it without my family and my friends and my husband especially. Just make sure you have a support system in place. Another thing I did for my mental health every day during IVF was I would go for a lot of walks. I have to walk a lot every day anyways because I have Yuma, and back when I was going through IVF, he was a small puppy and he needed so much attention and training, and he was chewing on everything, and I was still potty training him. And so taking care of actually something else, like if you have a dog or an animal you have to take care of, is really good therapy. But going for walks is so therapeutic, being outside in the fresh air. And when I was going through IVF, it was wintertime here. It was raining every day and miserable and cold and then snowing. So, but I still went out on walks because my dog has to be on walks all the time because energy level is through the roof. So it's like you just put your raincoat on, you know you're gonna get wet, it's fine. Just to be outside in the fresh air is just so great for the mind and the body, but especially the mind. And the walks I like to do is when I first wake up in the morning, because studies have shown that when you first wake up, before you look at your phone, before you do anything, if you go outside for a little bit of a walk, the sunshine, even if it's not sunny, but like the daylight helps you wake up in like a more positive mind frame for the rest of the day. So it really sets your mind mind up for a positive day. So yeah, going for walks every day really helped. And that's really the only form of exercise I could do, going through like the stim week and egg retrieval, because you're not allowed to do any high impact workouts, and I just didn't work out at all. I guess you could do maybe a little bit of weight training, but I wanted to make sure my body like focused on getting those follicles developed and those eggs developed. So I didn't want to really spend any extra energy like working out per se, but I did get my 10,000 steps in a day. A thing that I did every day, or I try to do every day, was to think of 3 things when I first wake up in the morning. Think of 3 things that I'm thankful for, and it really did like change my mindset for the day. Focusing on the things that I have instead of the things that I don't have, and really being thankful for the life that I have, my husband, my dog, things that I enjoy doing, and really focusing on those things in my life, the blessings in my life, versus like IVF and infertility and I want babies and blah, blah, blah. Really focusing on the blessings I have. And honestly, going into IVF, like I already love the life that I have. Like I was expecting the IVF not to work. So really just having that mindset of being thankful is really helpful. Seeing the glass half full on everything. I know that's kind of like oversaid and easier said than done. Like think of things you're thankful for and focus on the many blessings in your life and blah, blah, blah. But it really is true. And if you make a conscious effort to think of 3 things you're thankful for every day, I didn't write them down. It's too much work to find pen and paper, but I thought about them when I first woke up in the morning, and it did really help just kind of like tweak and change my mindset ever so slightly for like the positive, and it really helped me focus on what I have in my life versus what I don't have. Sometimes, and actually a lot of the times, being positive and having a thankful heart and a grateful heart takes energy and it takes focus. And I hate admitting that, but I think that me especially, and a lot of us tend to focus more on the negative because I think it's just easier to focus on that. But taking the time and effort to really make sure your mind is in the right place and counting the many blessings in your life really does change the mindset. And I think it makes going through IVF a lot easier. Along the lines of thinking of things I'm thankful for, I also did meditation every day, and I would meditate at night mainly because being on the anxious side, a lot of times I have trouble falling asleep. So if I meditate right before I go to bed, then it puts my body in a more relaxed state, and especially my mind, that I can fall asleep a lot easier. So I've used the app Headspace for many, many years. I started using that app, I want to say back in 2017. So I've been using it for a long time. And sometimes I fall off the bandwagon and don't use it. Like right now, I haven't meditated in like a week. So I need to get back on that, because I've noticed that if I do my meditation only 5 to 10 minutes every single day, if I do it every day, then I notice a huge difference in my anxiety level and in my mental health. It's just, my mind is a lot healthier if I meditate every day. And I highly recommend the app Headspace because they make it so easy. I am not good at meditation. My mind tends to wander so easily. But if I can get through the 5 to 10 minutes of meditation and I do it every day, it just helps so much. You guys need to try it if you haven't. After finding out I was pregnant, my anxiety went through the roof, as I already mentioned. So I did all those things that I already told you about to help my mental health. But the thing that I really focused on after finding out I was pregnant was to remind myself to take it one day at a time, and to remind myself that the feelings that I'm feeling are normal for what I've been through, to allow myself to feel what I feel, but also to trust the process, trust my body, have faith. I'm not so religious anymore, but to really have faith and trust in like the universe and in the Lord, that there's a plan for me, that I've been through all this for a reason, to just trust and have faith that baby's okay, that I'm okay. I do rely heavily on Josh to tell me that things are okay. I don't know, it just helps me a lot to like hear it from another person, like, Brittany, your baby's fine, our baby's fine, you're doing everything right. I'll call my mom every week and she tells me the same thing. So just hearing that too from other people helps, but just reminding myself to trust, have faith that everything is okay. And if everything's not okay, then it's happening for my greater good. You know, if it's not not meant to be, it's not meant to be. If it is meant to be, it's gonna be wonderful. So just, I guess, just having faith and trusting the process and trusting my body, that my body is taking care of this baby that I've worked so hard for and been through so much for. Now that I'll be 17 weeks on Sunday when this video goes up on YouTube, I am better mentally, I think, because I'm a little bit farther along, but also I am still struggling. I go on my walks every day. I still work, so work helps kind of distract my mind. Meditation really helps, talking with my family, talking with Josh, expressing my feelings, having faith, thinking of things that I'm thankful for, and reminding myself that it's okay to feel these things. Sharing my journey with you guys, though, has been so tremendously helpful. And then, of course, sharing my bump every week. I've been doing like bump dates on Instagram. I think that's been really fun for me to do, and just helping me believe this pregnancy and believing that this is gonna happen. So thank you guys for all your love and your excitement and being excited along with me. I'm finally allowing myself to feel more excited. I was so hesitant my first trimester to feel excited because I didn't want to be disappointed if I lost the baby and miscarried or something were to happen. So I didn't want to feel too much joy. I didn't want to jinx anything, but I'm just now allowing myself to feel the joy and the excitement and feel the blessing. And a lot of that is you guys helping me do that. All right, so I'm going to end the video here. I hope that this helps you. I hope that maybe you can relate. Those of you going through your own IVF journey, your own infertility journey, it's a lot. And just remember that you're never alone, that a lot of us go through what you're going through, and a lot of us are feeling what you're feeling. Allow yourself to feel what you feel, and then maybe you can try some of those interventions that I mentioned. Maybe they're gonna help you. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave comments down below if anything stuck with you, if anything hit home. Again, thank you so much for your guys' love and support. It is so greatly appreciated. Give this video a thumbs up, of course, if you liked it, because it does really help support my channel. I will see you in the next video, and always remember to be kind to yourself.